I'm Sam Rose, and this is Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitors somehow just launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Charlotte, thanks for being here. You built Alice Mushrooms into a breakthrough wellness brand, functional mushroom chocolates that are making mushrooms mainstream, which I can't wait to learn more about. If my notes are right, you've got 3 SKUs. You've got major, really cool investors, L Catterton, celebrity backers like Zac Efron, which is, of course, near and dear to my heart.
Right.
And like 1,000 retail locations you've scaled to so far, 8-figure revenue projections, all of the things that are sort of like the dream checklist for when I'm in year, 3 of my startup, like where do I want to be? The first thing I want to chat with you about is category creation, because you're sort of like creating this category where functional meets indulgent. And with that comes consumer education.
Right.
And which is always like a challenge, but an opportunity to own a category in its entirety. So why'd you decide to do that? And what is the hardest part about developing and educating a category for consumers? And then like, how are you approaching that? What's your SOP for category creation?
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, like if you want to create a category, like no one goes in to creating a category without a little bit of selfishness involved in it, right? It's like,
Oh.
I think more so than any other kind of business you start, you really have to love something and be selfish about it to create a category, because it's easy to see like a white space in a category and kind of just have a business hat on and be like, okay, I can fill that. But to create a category, I think it has to be something that you personally want and thought of as something you'd buy. So that's really kind of where it all started, is like my business partner, Lindsay, her background's in pharmaceuticals, mine is in food. We're both kind of picky. And everything in the functional mushroom space just wasn't something we would want to consume. And we really
Yeah.
wanted something that tasted good, and there was nothing like that. And so it was just one of those things like, how do we find a functional mushroom product that we want?
Right.
And that's kind of where the category came from. Like it wasn't going to be in a coffee. It wasn't going to be a tincture. It wasn't going to be a pill. Okay, so what is it? And chocolate was kind of that answer. And the way that we married our like food and pharma backgrounds together. But I think it's like, yeah, it's almost like you don't choose it, it chooses you, right? Like it's the product, and we chased the product. And when we found the product that we knew was right, that's when we were like, okay, I guess we have to create this category. And it's a little daunting, but it's fun. And when you get to be kind of the leaders in creating a new category, you get to shape it. So there's a lot that, you can put your fingerprint on and play around with. And I think like it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And it requires a lot of patience. And I think that goes with, acquiring customers. You need to be patient because you need to teach them a lot. Like education, like you said, getting investors, you need to be patient because a lot of people won't have your vision or share, the feeling behind, okay, this category will exist and this is the brand that will do it. Right. And then retailers, like when you're creating a category, they don't know where to put you.
Right.
And so you really have to be strong in your conviction, but also be willing to be flexible, right? And kind of move around to get where you need to go.
Wow, I love so much of how you framed this, starting with because it's a loaded word, you have to be a little selfish. Like you have to have an
Yeah.
opinion that you insist on sharing. And so often, we're told that and mostly rightly, that being selfish is like a trait that we shouldn't indulge.
Right.
But if you are trying to do something that's never been done before and prove it to the world, then keying into that and maybe even just labeling it and recognizing it. You're like, you know what? I am. I'm a little
Yeah.
selfish about this. Like I am going to insist on doing
Right.
it. There's nicer words, being opinionated, having conviction and so on and so forth. But I really love that you labeled it that way because, and I identify with that. Like there is an element to it where it's like, well, I want to do this sort of selfless thing, which is share something with the world. but I
Right.
kind of got to be a little selfish to get there because
Right.
it's going to take a piece out of you to do it, you know?
Totally. And I think, like, you have to know, like, I want this product so badly, so I know that it should exist and trust that, like, your wants because you want something, probably someone else wants it.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about your R&D setup. So Alice started in Lindsay's kitchen. You've got
Yeah.
homeopathic doctors and biochemists at the table,
Yeah.
which is fairly unique. How did you guys go about thinking about product formulation, dealing with both functional ingredients and then all of the regulatory considerations, which I'm assuming talk us through them, but I'm assuming that's not a short list of things. um, and then also having it taste good.
Yeah, I mean, the taste is definitely the hardest. It really all started in Lindsay's kitchen. And like she was, I mean, the thing I'll start with giving you a little bit of background on functional mushrooms because that really is the core of why we formulate the way that we do. We functional mushrooms, they don't work right away. You have to take a medicinal dose daily for about 3 weeks to allow the nutrients time to compound and start making changes.
Mm,
And like that's great, but for people who love instant gratification, which is like pretty much everyone at this point, that is not gonna cut it. Like, we're people don't stick around with, habits for 3 to 4 weeks if they don't feel anything right away, and then if you that habit also doesn't taste good and isn't convenient, it's like, okay. Like,
mm,
Lindsay's background in
yeah,
pharmaceuticals was very much she understood how delivery vehicle and delivery method affected patient compliance, and, like, she saw it over and over again, if people would just quit taking pills even that their doctor prescribed for an ailment, but because it didn't work right away or they didn't like the pill
taste
size
or
or you gave them a weird aftertaste, whatever it is. So really it's like, okay, how do we make getting functional mushrooms enjoyable and something I want to come back and do every day and also give me a little instant gratification? So from the start, it was always let's pair functional mushrooms with fast acting ingredients. So our first two formulations, we had Nightcap for sleep and Brainstorm for focus and energy. The sleep chocolate that has reishi mushroom, which is amazing for improving sleep cycles over time, but then also magnesium, chamomile, L-theanine, zinc, right? That puts you to sleep night one. And our energy chocolate, it's kind of the same vibe. There's lion's mane and cordyceps mushrooms, but then also some natural caffeine and some fatty acids that gets you like going right away. So that was really, like, what informed the formulation from the beginning is, like, it has to work quickly, and so it
yeah.
was really, like, Lindsay with this homeopathic doctor in her kitchen buying capsules from the store and powders online and, like, dumping them out, tasting them, seeing how they worked, mixing them with, like, chocolate she'd bought at Trader Joe's and melted down, over her stove, and, like, literally
Amazing.
just mad science kind of vibes. And once they kind of got some formulations that they were like, okay, this feels like it works and it tastes okay, then, we took it to these this team of biochemists and professional formulators who kind of put these dossiers together for us that were like, okay, here's all of these ingredients and here's what's good about them and here's what goes with what. And then we kept refining from there. And then it was just sampling and sampling over and over. And then finally, we found our chocolatiers where we manufacture their fifth generation chocolatiers, and we were like, "Okay, these taste, like, passable. Make them taste amazing." And
Right.
that yeah.
That's awesome. I have more questions about this, but I'm getting a little bit of buzzy feedback from maybe like a phone or something. I
Yeah,
don't think it's on my. Do you want to just pause for a second and
yeah,
mute it?
yes.
Only because you're delivering such gold, and
Yes, do
I
not
want to
disturb
hear.
is
I want
on,
to hear it
sorry.
all.
I forget
Okay.
about
Okay.
my
Rad. No, it's all good. It's somehow is half the time it doesn't pick it up. It somehow was. Um, so okay, so you're developing these formulas, and I have a specific question for you about the efficacy of it, which is
Yeah,
on day one, you've formulated so that you can deliver something that makes someone feel something in addition to tasting great. But
right.
then the mushrooms themselves are compounding an effect over time. So for like your standard customer, how does the day one or day two experience of this product differ from like I'm a month in
Yeah.
and I've done it right?
Day 1 or day 2, and I mean, this will go on in perpetuity because of the fast acting ingredients. you'll feel something within 30 minutes to an hour of taking the chocolate. And whether that's, our energy chocolate where you're just locked in, you feel more focused, you feel more energized, you've got a little bit more pep in your step. Same with our sleep chocolate, like 45 minutes, you're tired, you're going to want to get into bed. But after about a month, it's kind of just steady state. Like, oh, my energy levels are already here. And so this product is going to bring it up, right? Whereas before I might have started with my baseline energy and focus levels lower. So it's like this entire just like lifting to where your baseline is in a much better place. And that's through these ingredients that just work over the long term to bring your system kind of to where it should be functioning at a healthy baseline.
Got it. And there's a so much curiosity around mushrooms and also a stigma that comes with the category.
Yeah.
How have you helped distinguish your version of functional mushrooms with the part that maybe scares people or that feels like, a little bit more dangerous, say?
Totally. That's been such a challenge. And I think when we first launched, that was kind of at a core of what we were trying to do was make that really important delineation between psychedelic mushrooms and what we're selling. I think we came out of the gate really being so intentional about the brand and how it showed up. I think like if you look at our packaging, it doesn't look trippy, it doesn't look psychedelic, right? It has a very refined, minimalist, like kind of chic branding. And our website is very considered. I think everywhere you look at the brand, at least I hope you see an element of like thoughtfulness and consideration
Mhm.
that I think we wanted to have from the get-go because that instills consumer trust. And so I think if the more you share and the more considered your brand looks, the less people are like, is there something else going on here? Right. But always trying to be super forward about that and telling people off the bat, like, no, this is not going to make you trip. Yes, this is really good for you. And here's why. When we launched, we actually had a section on our website that was like the glossary, and we designed it to look kind of like a
Yeah.
digital library where we defined all of these kind of mushroom terms that I think people hear and get thrown around all the time, but don't actually understand. And just like getting super into it with your FAQs and how you're positioning yourself online. And I think just like the more we've grown, honestly, it's like, people don't assume when they see us on shelf at Sprouts that it's illegal, right? They're like, okay, national retailers are selling it at this point. There's a little bit more trust there. So I think as you grow, you kind of start to earn that trust more.
You're in 400 stores, over 400 stores, including Erewhon and pop-up grocer. Am I right about that?
We're actually in like 1,200 stores now. Yeah.
Okay, my notes are old. That's amazing. Because what I had was plans for 1,000 by year end. So you're growing really, really fast, which is good.
Yeah.
And you heard it here first.
We'll actually be over 2,000 by year end, which is exciting.
Holy smokes. That's incredible. Congrats.
Thank
Wow.
you.
So it's clear that maybe like you've found a way to overcome the challenges of
Yeah.
having retail conversations with buyers that don't already have like shelf space cleared for the category. How did you unlock that? How did you position functional mushroom chocolates? What was really hard at the beginning? And what did you do to solve that so that now you're growing at a pace that's like literally twice as fast as what I thought it was?
Yeah. I mean, I think the category, there's just been a lot of tailwinds behind it. And we're lucky that we've had some folks come in before us with these really large, mushroom coffee and mushroom supplement businesses that have like honestly done a lot of the heavy lifting on the education and category creation, at least just from like functional mushroom supplements as an idea. So I would say like it's been great timing. Like the last couple of years, I think retailers are starting to get hip and more mass retailers are like, okay, I have a functional mushroom set now. And so anywhere there's a functional mushroom set, like Alice should be there. And we have just built so much traction kind of on our D2C business and just marketing wise and brand recognition that it's become kind of an easy, not easy, but like a more straightforward sell to have Alice come in if you have X, Y, and Z other brands. So it's really a rising tide lifts all ships with everyone in the
Yeah.
category, which is great. And we just look really different from everyone else in the category. So we definitely stand out. And I think that's been a huge advantage to us, is kind of like this brand that maybe it's your first time trying functional mushrooms and you don't want to, completely change your routine, or you're a little bit intimidated. Like, we're a really easy entry point.
Yeah, and I think you've differentiated with the chocolate. You've differentiated from powders and
Yeah,
gummies and into something that people are sort of buying in a different and maybe more impulsive way,
totally.
which is such a great combination of that impulse buy, but plus something that's a little bit like more forward looking and like long
Yeah.
term for health benefits. So I think you've sort of like unlocked a really killer combo there.
Thank you.
Um, so when you are set in the store, where are they putting you now? Is it with chocolates? Is it with functional mushrooms? Is there a place for all the functional
Yeah,
mushrooms?
I mean, that it's the age-old question, right? At Sprouts, we're in their supplements aisle, and they do a lot of functional mushrooms, so we're kind of around a lot of the functional mushrooms within the supplements aisle. We're in a lot of, like, specialty, like Erewhon, they have a functional mushroom set, so we're there, but they also secondary place us in, their sleep aisle, and in their focus and energy supplements, and their sexual wellness supplements. So there's kind of a lot of different places we can sit. We also have single servings of our chocolate. So those are really fun because that price point makes a little bit more sense kind of in chocolate or at checkout as an impulse buy. If our tin, most retailers sell it for like $30, right? Like, you put that in the chocolate aisle, people are going to laugh you out of the grocery store, right? Like,
Right.
next to a $5 bar of chocolate, they see your thing for $30. It's like, that doesn't make sense. But when we have our single serves in these smaller kind of trial sizes that go for like 250 or $3, that makes a lot more sense. So we do a lot of work around pack size to try and get us into multiple places in the store for discovery and for people to find us.
And I think that that makes such an important point, which is that customer discovery for something like this demands SKUs of its own.
Yeah,
Because something like that, spending that amount of money, or even just running an experiment of that magnitude on your
yeah,
own body, like, how
right,
am I going to react to this? Forcing someone to overcommit as they might for like an entire bottle of a supplement is
right,
really, really hard, and it slows the
right.
adoption curve. But if you can format your product in a way that makes it easy for someone to try it once and see how they feel, and then maybe like
Yeah,
step, 2 or 3 times into the bulkier purchases, then especially for something where it is slightly more expensive, and it is gonna have maybe a slightly unpredictable effect on your body. It's like,
right.
give yourself some room for it.
Right, and I think that's also where we stand out in functional mushrooms as well, is like I said, like, we do formulate for instant gratification. So we're kind of that only functional mushroom brand where a trial size actually can make sense because of the other ingredients in there, and people will try it once and be like, "Oh, okay." Whereas, if I just were to take a serving of lion's mane one time, I'd be like, "I don't know."
Yeah, is that on that's a perfect segue to another question that was on my mind, which is just you've got like the most creative and rad marketing and partnerships, vintage ice cream trucks,
Yeah.
Coachella, and Florida Mall lingerie. Do you who's driving those partnerships, and what path has worked best for you for driving trial as well?
Yeah. Honestly, all of our partnerships have come about pretty organically, which has been fun. The ice cream truck, that was my business partner's like real kind of genius idea. She was like, always saw Alice with an ice cream truck. So we rented this 1969 Chevy, like, beater ice cream truck from this guy in Long Beach and wrapped it and drove that around. And that was super fun because that was just a way to get the brand out into the wild, right? Talk about that education. It's like, we're an e-com brand without a storefront. Lindsay and I moved in with her in Venice for like 5 weeks, and we drove that truck around and did like 30 activations, and a way to just like get out and meet people and be on the street and take this kind of logo or brand they've seen on Instagram and then bring it to you, and we're there and we're talking about it and you can try the product. Florida Mall came around really organically too. That one was so fun. We did a right around when we launched our sex chocolate, we did a lingerie collaboration with them. We just wrapped a partnership with The Last of Us, the HBO show about cordyceps mushrooms, where we did a custom
Nice.
like illustration with the show's IP on our tin, which was really fun, of our brainstorm chocolate. We've done a bunch of really fun stuff like that. And honestly, for us, it's about, you know, kind of getting at to what we chatted about earlier, is like that level of validation for this brand. I think the more customers see larger brands that they already know and trust putting their stamp of approval on Alice, it makes it a little bit less scary, right? It's like, oh, well, like
Yeah.
they're working with HBO. They must, be trustworthy. They're working with Fleur de Mal. They're working with, XYZ brand. I think all of those things just help build brand awareness for us and build consumer trust.
Yeah. Okay, so you actually just described like a really amazing go-to-market playbook, and I'm going to play it back for us.
Okay.
So, format for trial, make it easy for customers to try your product. Take advantage of rising tides, and that might mean the way that you're choosing a category and or building a category, but that certainly has advantaged you guys. Find great partnerships where, in a rising tide like effect, somebody
Yeah,
else's brand equity can help elevate yours, and you as a startup can help to make them cool and stay current.
exactly.
That's what they're getting out of it too.
Right.
And this is my favorite, don't underestimate the ground game, because you in that truck on the
Right.
beach or anywhere else in LA, just meeting customers, telling your story, learning about your product from their feedback to you, and getting the word out is
Yeah,
like, it's so hard to overstate how valuable that is for a business.
totally. And I think like in your
That's
first
Charlotte's go-to-market strategy.
yeah. And I think in your first couple of years, like the answer is yes, always, right? Like
Yeah.
I I don't do them as much anymore because I would perish. But like in our first couple of years, Lindsay and I were doing every trade show, every kind of sampling opportunity we got, and in our respective cities, we're pulling the tablecloths together and the tins and the just product display sheets and going out there and just talking ourselves hoarse about the product, because I think those, you have three, if you go to a market, right, and you talk to 300 people and tell them about your product, they're going to go tell four people each, or, and like that
Yeah.
stuff, it's time consuming, but in those early days, it really moves the needle.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. I mean, like, and it's so interesting because uh, people talk about virality as this sort of like mysterious, like how
Yeah.
can we get there? And it's just like, you know what? Just all you have to have is one person tell someone else about your thing at like anything more than one ratio, and
Yeah.
you're there, and
Right.
just keep repeating it. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be mysterious. It's really just like, go talk to people
Right.
and then
Yeah.
like,
Just get out
and
there.
then ask them to talk to more.
Yeah.
Yeah. What has been the hardest thing about building this business from scratch?
Ooh. How long do you have?
We got time.
I think, I mean, there's a different answer for every hour of the day. I think, Lindsay and I are both first time founders. So it's, what do we do? Right? How, like, you're making it up as you go. And so I think that is an exercise in self-trust and in trusting your gut, which are things that, sometimes come easy and sometimes really don't. And so I think it's about trusting yourself, trusting your business partner. Like those are the things at the end of the day that are going to take you the farthest, but are scary. And I think that's like pretty fundamental to it. And I think, gosh, outside of that, I mean, it's just like problem solving constantly. And I think you just have to be really down to be like, okay, someone just dropped a really big problem in my email. How am I going to figure it out? And like take a beat, take a breath, and know you're going to figure it out. But there's a million different challenges, but they all kind of get distilled down into those two things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that your point about trusting yourself, there's like parenting, there's no manual
Yeah,
that comes with this, but it's very socialized that there's no manual that comes with parenting. We've been hearing that since we were little. Everybody knows. And there is like no manual for this either. There's obviously lots
yeah,
of resources, and like, listening to people like you share their experience has a value to everybody. But something that has really landed with me, having gone through it a few times now. It's like everyone is just making it up as they go.
Totally.
I've worked with like startups that are totally pre-revenue, and I've worked with like, 9-figure brands that are just like a total multi-year going concern. And still everybody is just making it up as they go.
Totally.
And that's sort of like horrible, but also great.
Yeah.
Because it's very democratic. Like
Yeah.
everybody's making it up, so anyone can make it up. And
Right.
and so what you have to rely on is really just like trusting yourself, trying to do the next right thing at any
Yeah.
given moment, and knowing that you're going to be in it for like effectively a lifetime of problem solving.
Right. There's no there's no end sight.
There's no. Um, okay, I'm gonna point us toward one thing that I assume was hard for you guys, but I'm curious to hear more about it, which is the regulatory landscape.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving. It's already complicated. It gets more and less complicated in unpredictable ways.
Yeah.
um, and you've got to like maintain compliance while also telling people how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So do you have like a framework for compliance, and how do you stay compliant and also still stay interesting?
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is a really interesting question because the answer is that there isn't that much regulation, which is actually like spooky. Anyone could kind of come in and make a supplement, particularly in the supplement space. And you don't have to register it with the FDA because supplements are not FDA approved. I mean, you can just kind of make something and start selling it, which is actually pretty crazy.
Like horrified.
Yeah, it's horrifying, right? So I think that, like, actually what we've done is and any good supplement brand that you should trust is one that's taken it upon themselves to make strong guidelines and follow them.
Yeah.
So we have just been like that was something we learned because neither of us had worked in supplements, and we were like, "What? You can just, like, source anything and then just do it?" You know? Like, you can just
Yeah.
order powder online to your factory and make something and put a label on it. Like, it's pretty wild. And there's a certain point at which, like, if you're small enough, the government won't come after you at all. Like, you kind of have to achieve,
Yeah.
like, a pretty large scale to start having the regulators start paying attention to you. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a siren for everyone who's buying supplements, is like, you really have to trust the brand. Um,
Yeah.
so what we do is, I mean, all of our chocolate, we work with amazing chocolatiers. All of our chocolate is USDA certified organic and ethically traded and sourced. Our mushrooms are USDA certified organic and grown by a network of farms owned by a woman who has her own patented extraction process, and everything's super pure. We've taken all the right steps to register all of our claims with the FDA and with all the like corresponding government bodies, and everything we get is COAs and tested. And, we never send a batch out that we haven't done heavy metal and listeria and E. coli, all that testing on. But the sad truth is, like, that's not required of us. Um,
Right.
and those are standards we hold ourselves to. So, we don't make any claims that are egregious or anything that we can't back up. We have substantiation dossiers and dockets behind every claim that we're making that shows, like, this is legit and we can say this because this is what the science proves. But it's pretty wild. It's still the Wild West out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I've managed compliance in a utterly different category. Like
Yeah.
home and houseware is focused, so there were certainly like some special regulations that we needed to abide by because you're
Yeah.
cooking with our tools. But it's really interesting how there's sort of like this dividing line between you can do anything you want as long as you're not making a claim to it.
Right.
And that's what allows you to like
Right.
live in this gray area. And then
Right.
if you start making claims, which people like you and people like I sort of are inclined to want to do, right? You've got a
Right.
dossier that backs up all of the functionality. And
Yeah.
so there's like this really weird needle to thread where you want to be able to communicate legitimacy to
Right.
your customers. But if you go too far in communicating that legitimacy, then you've made a public claim, which dumps you into compliance land.
Right.
And then you're like, well, wait a second. I was just trying to like make them comfortable with,
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's really tricky. It's like if you try to beat, you know what, you can just comply yourself into compliance is what it is.
Totally. And I
And
think
at some point
yeah, and
that it's required.
right, and it's kind of crazy where, there's so many things that we know to be true, but then we have to pay someone to put together this dossier that says they're true, and so it kind of becomes this, like, club that you have to pay to be a part of, to
Right.
make claims that are just true on on their face.
But then if you put that claim on your packaging, you're back on the wrong side of the law.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's like
We have all of
we
our
like to
yeah, we have all of our packaging claims registered with the government,
yeah.
that we
Okay, so there you go.
and then we have the the documentation to back all of them up, but, like, that wasn't anything anyone told us when we started this business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just like, "Yeah,
Oh,
I
man,
could say something's for sleep." And it's like, "No, you can't."
well, you're right, exactly. And yeah,
Yeah,
and I think, to the government's credit, it's so I actually think the American government has done a pretty good job of
yeah,
exposing how it all works. It's one of the most impressive government things that I end up like
yeah,
continually exposed to is like how well documented things are at the US Patent and Trademark Office, how well documented things are with like the UCC
yeah,
and then like, Customs and Import Bureau and the CBP and I'm like oh wow, like I learning a lot every time I
yeah,
go to a government website where like and the FDA
yeah,
where they're trying to expose and explain how packaging regulations work
yeah,
or how compliance regulations work. It's quite impressive. And for anyone looking for a little bit of light weekend reading,
yeah,
like go find a government agency that's in control of something that you care about, like the USDA, and just be impressed by how
yeah,
much work has gone into protecting the US consumer
totally.
and what extraordinary leadership really the government has you know given us for those consumer protections because without it people are going to sell you I don't know
Snake
not
oil.
Alice chocolates the
Yeah,
wrong kind of chocolates.
yeah, exactly.
It's like one of those today I learned things on I'm like
Yeah,
today I learned how magnet regulations
yeah,
are managed for like making sure that airplane radars don't
right,
get confused or whatever. Um, anyway, to get off track, regulations are cool, but also hard. And
yeah,
there's there's no real business manual for it, although there are a lot of compliance
yeah.
manuals for it. Okay, opposite question. What's the thing that's the most surprising fun that you've had where like you didn't realize how rad it would be to do X in your business?
That's a great question. Um, I think, and this is just top of mind because I just got off our weekly all hands with the team, but just like building out a really fun and smart and engaging group of folks around you. I think there's nothing to me that's been more satisfying than getting great employees who I really believe in and who care so much about this joint project we're all working on, and that like I can help empower them financially and um like with their career growth and all of that stuff. I think that's just been a really cool experience to see this team start to build and coalesce. And it's just like it's such a gift to be able to give really great people great opportunities. So I love that with the team, and building those relationships. But I think also it's just like the connection that you get, from
Yeah.
even just talking to customers. I was at a trade show last week, and it was just so fun to spend the day, um, educating people about the product and seeing them try it and then having them come back and be like, "That really worked," or it was a 2-day trade show, so I gave a bunch of people the sleep chocolate, and they came back to the booth the next morning, and they were like, "I slept really well last night." And it's just fun to kind of get that, quick feedback from people, right? And just, like, have that connection because I sit behind my laptop more often than not, right? And so it's fun
Yeah.
to be out there and see the product in the world in that way.
I love that. That's such a perfect answer to end on. But what you said just struck me because so many founders get into a business without realizing how they're going to get out of it, like, or what the plan is there. Like, there's so much excitement and hype and focus on like, let's start a business, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to miss the, well, what next? Like, are you going to be here for the next 20 years? Or are you going to sell it? And if you're going to sell it, then like, how can you structure the business so that that's possible?
Right.
And to your point about making the choice between offering only functional mushrooms versus like psychedelics as a choice, well, that type of a choice, if you had chosen to add that to your roadmap, that takes like 99% of potential acquirers off the table.
Yeah.
You know, immediately.
And it just drowns you in regulation and paperwork and risk and so many like complexities that, you know, just running a regular run of the mill business, which is already extremely hard and complex, but does not have that added layer of complexity to it. And I think like when you're starting out, and if your goal is to build a business to sell it, like you want to keep those options for acquirers as wide and open as possible. And decisions that you make that narrow that field, you have to think really long and hard about those.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to find an acquirer with just like a really clean profitable cash flowing business. Like, just if you add the other things to it, you know,
it's insanely difficult to get acquired. So it's like, make decisions if that is your goal that, you know, make that process as seamless as it possibly could be, which is to say still not very seamless.
Yeah. Still hard, still no manual, but
yeah.
But don't make it any harder. All right. Thanks for letting me record that piece of it. I think, you know, I don't know, like something that's so easy to miss, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, we really didn't think about that when we first started. We were just like, we're out here and we're going to start this. And it just becomes like, even when you're raising kind of like friends and family capital, you're not thinking about, you know, long-term exit. It's really, I think when you start to bring in strategic, like venture and private equity partners that you're like, oh, okay, like now I need to start thinking about what is the next phase if it is an acquisition. What does that look like?
Well, that's such a good point, right? Like if you have institutional capital or experienced angel capital at the table, they're going to ask you that question and the model, right? They want the receipts for like, okay, you're here. How are you going to get there? How are you going to return our capital? And if you haven't gone the institutional route, it's really easy to miss that question is a question that you should be asking of yourself regardless, because you're investing your time and money and sweat equity and probably some of your own capital too.
Right.
And I think that intentionally bootstrapped founders or founders who haven't yet made it to the phase where they're interested in institutional capital can take a lesson from those who have come before them in raising institutional capital to say, well, no matter who it's for, like, what's my path here?
Right. And that's something that like founders you should think about too, right? Like you're putting your heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears. You're probably taking some years off of your life, right? With the stress that you're undergoing. It's like, what is my endpoint? And what is my, you know, potential upside at the end of this? And what do I need to do to get there? And if it's keeping your business private forever, that's great. But I think it's just you need to know what your goal is and then start thinking early on about how you want to get there.
Yeah. And investors have an obligation to ask and answer that question on behalf of their LPs. And I think what you're saying is founders owe it to themselves to ask and answer that question too.
Yeah.
Last question for you. And I know there's a number of stores now and it's growing really quickly. So where can we find Alice Mushrooms, and what's the best way that operators can be helpful to you guys as you're scaling?
Yeah. So alicemushrooms.com, our D2C site. I'll always love to drive people there. We are on Amazon as well. And then, you know, we're in about 1,000 kind of specialty shoppy shop, coffee shops, places around the country. So if you're in your like cool neighborhood shop, I hope that we're there. And if we're not, you should tell them to stalk us. We're in Sprouts nationwide, Erewhon, Pop-Up Grocer, Earth Fare, New Seasons, Lassen's, all those kind of fun places. And then when is this airing? Do you...
Probably in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Between 1 and 2 weeks from now. We're pretty clippy.
Okay. So then I'll just say big national retailer rollouts with like 2 of your favorite national stores in October.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Really excited for you and your business partner, the whole team. They're lucky to be able to have such a rad boss. And I'm excited for the brand. I can't wait to check it out at a big national retailer.
So much for having
Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.